Here's my full breakdown on how to make awesome black characters in Where Winds Meet, just like this. For a free-to-play game, the customization details are insane. Here is the character I made for this tutorial, so let's get started on how to make her. The game gives you different options of presets that you can use as a base to get started, and here's the preset I selected. The first thing I do in any character customization is take the hair off and make them bald so I can see all of the details that I'm messing with. After changing the hair, I change the skin tone so that I can find the right shade, and you have so many options for color, but as I mentioned, we're doing black character customization. You have to kind of play around with the different tones to find the right shade that you're looking for. For a nice brown shade, I had to go into the red category and go all the way down on the slider. After picking the skin tone, you can change the different contours so that it gives a different dimension to your character's face. This is the contour shade that I went with. This is where the fun begins. Let's get into customizing the face. You have a slider to change every single detail on the skull, and my recommendation is that you start off slow and turn your character side to side so you can see all of the changes that you're making. With these sliders, I recommend that you use the fullness and height and front and back sliders so that you can see how to move things side to side or make things thicker or wider based off of your preferences. As you can see here, I'm changing the cheekbones and the fullness. You can even change the height of these. When I was making my first character, I got a little bit too overzealous with changing the spacing, and it came out looking a little bit funky, so just be careful with how much you're adjusting because it can be hard to go back to the original shape that you were looking for without tons of hours of tweaking. Now moving on to the eyebrows and eye area. You can change the shape, height, and width of your eyebrows. You can even change different portions of the inner corner, outer corner of the eyebrows, and same for the eyes. You can totally change the eye shape to make it how you want it to look. This is why it takes me forever to do any character customization for any type of game, because I love being able to play with the finer details, such as changing the inner corners of the eyes, the outer corners, just to get the shape of my own eyes. If you're having trouble seeing the eye detail, you can take off the makeup of your character just so that you can see things a little bit easier. Now for the most important part of creating black characters, working on the nose. So I used the slider to widen the nose, but we still had this pointy edge. I used the nose bridge slider to bring the front to back slider all the way out so that it would help with that dip, because we're going to be changing the pointiness of the nose to make it a little bit more rounded. I also changed the width of the nasal bridge area to bring it all the way out so that the nose didn't look abnormal when we rounded and widened the base of the nose. To get rid of the pointed tip of the nose, I went down to the nose tip and changed the slider of front to back all the way down. But you can see it leaves a little bit of a hump, and so we're going to fix that. Going back to the nose bridge slider, I looked at the front and back slider to smooth out that hump, and it's looking much better and not as pointy as it was before, but we still have a lot more work to do. So going down to the overall nose tip, I used the size of it to widen the base of the nose to give it a more Afrocentric nose. I'm liking how it's coming out so far, but still want to do a few more tweaks. I went back to some of the different sliders and was adjusting the front and back slider, and this is pretty much the only slider I used for predominantly all of the adjustments that I use. You can play around with the other ones, but like I said, it's really easy to go way too far with some of these adjustments because you can have so much control over the details of your character's face. And I just adjusted the fullness of the nose tip, and that was the last thing I did. Moving on to the lips, again, you can go very far, and I messed up with my very first character and her lips came out super wonky, so just be careful with adjusting these sliders. So for this slider, I'm adjusting the fullness of the upper lip so that it gives it a nice plump appearance because they were a little bit too thin for my character. For the upper lip crease, I just increased the fullness to give it a little bit of a thicker and wider appearance. And then I went to the outer corners of the mouth and increased the spacing to make them a little bit wider so that it was more symmetrical with her face. I made a few subtle tweaks, and this is what we started with, and I'm really happy with how she's looking so far. We've come a long way. Now it's time for baddie brows and baddie makeup. I went with a more feathered brow look and changed the color to black because right now for your base character, black hair is the default. And so changing the pupils, you can change the eye shine that your character has. There are a bunch of different patterns and you can change it for each eye. How to change the eye colors, you have a color wheel and you can choose whatever color your heart's desires. I love doing heterochromia for my character, so I went with a prism inspired look with blue and pink eyes. I wish I could change her hair color to pink and blue, but we'll see when we unlock that feature later on. Now moving on to her eyeshadow, you can choose whichever style suits you best and you can change the color of the eyeshadow using the color wheel. I ended up going with a smoky look, and you can even change the glitter that's on her eyes, and you can even change the eyeshadow color. But I'm really loving how everything is coming out. I gave her a pink glitter look and I feel like it suits her face really well. Moving on to her lips, you can choose gloss patterns, make it shiny or matte, and change the color. I went with a darker lip because I just wanted her to have that cool baddie look. You can also put different details such as face tattoos for your character customization. You can change the color of the tattoos using the color wheel and you can adjust the position of them as well. But I kind of like her having these different eye tattoos. Ended up going with these leaves on one side and then used a water wave on the other side. But again, it's your character, so choose what fits best for the character that you're building. Okay, we got to talk about hair. There are not any really black hairstyles, but there's been some talk that because this is set in ancient China, that's why they didn't include any, so pick the ones that suit your character best. I ended up going with this long hairstyle, and there's a larger conversation that maybe we could bring up to the developers to include different hairstyles that include Afrocentric styles, but for now, I'm happy with how my character came out. Here are some examples of how my friends' characters came out using the same character customization. As you can see, everyone's looks different. So this is how she looks in game, and I am loving how she fits into this world, all of the clothing styles that you can unlock. I'm really looking forward to unlocking hairstyles that I can dye, because you can use armor dye and hair dye to change your character's colors, but I think she looks really cool. How do you think she turned out? And let me know what other Where Winds Meets tutorials you want to see.